Good Friday afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Devils Insiders podcast. As we are in 3 weeks into the regular season now, and our New Jersey Devils, well, they've been a blast to watch so far. They've played some exhilarating wins, some overtime wins. They've even had shootout wins, who would have thought? And they've had some tough losses here and there, but they've played well in just about every game so far. And 10 games in, and my name is Jeff O'Connor alongside Dave Turner. And Dave, just in general to start here, the attendance has been down. There was, great fear coming into the season that this is going to be an all-time bad team, potentially, worse than the 2010-11 team in recent times, maybe as bad as some of those early teams in the early 80s when the Devils actually came over from Colorado. But I think we've been shown that's not going to be the case this year. They're going to be a fun team to watch, and they are doing exactly what they said. There's been other years where, maybe we've been led astray from what we actually thought the goal was. They're doing everything they thought of, and they're exceeding expectations. I can't remember the last time that the Devils exceeded expectations. I mean, I guess maybe you could say the 2011-12 team, because they missed that playoffs in 10 and 11. They were so bad that maybe they exceeded expectations. This early on in 2011, 2012, when they finally got going and, right before January. But I can't recall a team already hitting expectations this early in a season.
Yeah, it's certainly been interesting to watch because I think everyone, even the Twitter question, the Twitter question I posted last night was, did you honestly believe that this team would be 5-4-1 after 10 games? And look, people I think were pretty honest with us because it was 85% no, which is a resounding number, and it was over 100 votes. I think it was like 126 last time I checked. So that's a pretty good sample size, and I think that certainly shows what people really thought about this team coming in, is that they weren't going to be very good. We've heard about the offensive woes and that sort of thing, and the young defense needing to take a step forward to really pace this team. But what we've seen from them, I think you hit it on the head, is exactly kind of what they said they were going to do. They were going to be faster, which they have been. They were going to attack. They were going to do some things, and really be more of an aggressive team, and we've seen that. Even last night when you see Kyle Palmieri turn that play into a goal. I don't know if that's a play that even they would have been able to make last year. Just for him to be able to block the shot, corral the puck, and put it past Mason. And even the idea of holding on and getting a 3-1 win on the road is a big step forward. I mean, that's not I'm going to say it. That's not a hard building. It's a tough building to play in.
The post game, did I read that right? I didn't see his post game, but he apparently said that, and apparently dropped that line in the post game. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but there was a few people on Twitter who said that Hines said it was a tough building after the game.
It's a slippery slope for him. He can't start doing that.
Oh, I couldn't believe that. I was like,
next
wow.
thing you know, his hat's going to start curving more and more and more now.
That's right.
That won't happen. I sure hope not.
Yeah, that would be a. I think fans maybe they might have enjoyed that line last night, but yeah, the less they can stay away from Pete DeBoer type phrases, that would be.
But he didn't use it as an excuse though. With Pete, it was always kind of an excuse, like, well, we played okay, and it's a really tough building for us. But I mean, if you can win and say it's a tough building, basically you're saying is we're good. I think he's almost patting himself and the team on the back by saying, yeah, it's a tough place to play, and we went in there and we ramped it up in the third period. So maybe he's using it as a direct opposite of what Pete used to use it as. So hey, why not?
That would be much better and more welcome. So yeah, the start's been good, and it's been fun to watch. And I'm interested to see if the fans will ever start coming out this season. I mean, on opening night, they still, no matter what the expectations are coming into this year, it's always 17,000 or right around that. They normally always sell out opening night. I think they have low 14s for opening night, and it's been consistently 12,000. And you have to think they're even fudging those numbers a little bit, because when you don't sell out, teams still they amp up those numbers. It's more the sold tickets or whatever the case is, however they do it. So I mean, I haven't been in the building this year. I can't tell you what it's actually been like on game days as far as the empty seats. But hopefully, if this continues or it stays somewhat on par, even if they stay like these, even if they go like .500 the rest of the year, and they finish, with nearly the same amount of wins as losses. It'd be nice to see some fans in the stands, especially considering the weather is still nice out. It's not cold out. It'll be interesting to see November, December, January when it's freezing out. Our team's still going to want to watch the Devils play. But if they're playing like this, hopefully it'll bring some more fans to the stadium.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you bring that up with the fans, because I've been there a few times this year, and I did feel like there was a general kind of bit of apathy going on. I haven't been there since they've started winning. I was there the first couple games, so maybe things are a little bit different, but it would be nice to see the fans start to show up now. I mean, look, I certainly want, of course, between you and I, Jeff, we're working all hours of almost every day, but when we can, certainly I'd love to get back to another game now, just because it is fun. And, when you have no expectations and all of a sudden they're doing some things that you really like, in some ways it might be a little bit more fun. I mean, look, think about the Rangers, for example. I mean, this is a team that expects to be going to the Cup Finals this year. How enjoyable is it going to be going to those games that if you start losing, all of a sudden, maybe the players are gripping the sticks tighter, but the fans are gripping the seats a little tighter too. Where in a sense, a season like this, you can enjoy it more, because if they lose, you're like, whatever. But if they win, you're like, wow, they actually won another game. So I think there's something to be said about just enjoying this ride for however long it ends up lasting.
Let's try and do that. And before we move on, the official quote from our fearless leader, John Hynes: "I don't think it's easy to do it in any league." And he was asked about winning consistently on the road, but tribute to the guys. They've done a good job and found ways to win in some pretty tough buildings. Nice. Amazing. Let's talk about the head coach's offensive style. When Pete DeBoer got here, he mentioned that he was going to try and, bring a little more upscale tempo to the offense. And he did do that by really that style he mentioned was swarming it up. That forecheck was just ferocious, and I thought that definitely kind of separated them from some of the teams in the Eastern Conference. There was really no team in the NHL who played as high up as they did. Were able to keep pucks in corners and force defenders to stay out there long stretches of time. They did that better than anyone that year. So really. That kind of put them on the way to doing that. Hold on here. I don't know what's happening.
Add autoplay?
Yeah, apparently. I don't know where it's coming from. Yeah, so I'm just going to stop here completely. Oh, you know what it was? It was from TG's blog. That's son of a gun.
TG's getting... All right, let's just pick it up from your last point.
Okay. So they were really one of the better teams of doing that style of forechecking in the 2011-12 season. From what I can tell, and I'm sure everyone's going to have a different opinion, John Hynes' offensive style is once they get the puck at the blue line, it's almost, if you're a big fan of soccer, from what I can tell, this is what it seems like to me. Once they get a turnover, once they pick up a loose puck, they're trying to move it from blue line to blue line as fast as possible. And, you can call that, you want to call that a style, if you want to call that an element of a style, that's fine. But I think they're trying to move through the neutral zone quicker. And if they still have to play a little dump and chase, that's okay. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to get those quick counters where, they're trying to catch a team on a change, or they're trying to catch them halfway through a change where they've got some, players out there who haven't played with each other in a while, and, they've got to work with each other to get a puck out of the zone and communicate with players they're not normally used to communicating with. I think that's kind of the key to their offense, is they're looking to move that. They're looking to have that quick counter, almost soccer style, where they're kind of catching the other squad off guard. And sometimes it results in some dump and chase where they keep pucks in. Sometimes it results in, some 3-on-2s with the defenseman coming on the trailer. I think that's been the most impressive part, is that it's simple and yet effective in multiple ways, his offensive style, the way they're trying to move defensively into offense.
Yeah, it's been pretty effective so far, because I think that they are making teams have to play a certain way. They're actually dictating play, which is something that I don't think we might have thought this team was capable of, especially this early, learning the new system. But what they're doing is, with the quick counterattack, is that they're making teams have to be defensively responsible right away. And they're saying, all right, we're going to get through neutral ice and we're going to get out there. We're going to get some shots. And if not that, I'm a big advanced stats guy, but the Devils are pretty much in the top third from what I've seen in the shooting stats and all that, the shots attempted, all that, because they are getting shots on net. I mean, I haven't even actually looked how many games that they've outshot their opponents yet this year, just from shots on goal. But you do see them actually driving play and being able to score with it. I mean, look, they're not going to be a team that's going to put up 4 or 5 every night, but I think that they're getting good chances. Even in the Columbus game, they were getting chances. Even early against the Flyers, they were getting chances. And really, I think with this team, you only want to look at the last couple games with this team because they're going to continue to improve. They're going to continue to get better overall just because the guys are going to learn the system better. So for me, I think that's a good thing is that every game now we've seen them sort of dictate this play with this quick through neutral ice, get some shots, sort of attack. And they've been also, on the flip side, they've been good enough defensively to get back every time that they've kind of pushed play forward.
Yeah, they really haven't hung Schneider out to dry, which, again, at the expense of creating offense, I'm okay with doing that from time to time because Corey's good enough to keep most pucks out of the net. But they haven't had to do that a lot this year where, there's been, 2-on-0s, 2-on-1s against Schneider. They haven't allowed those odd man rushes the other way, so they haven't gone in this offensive style without totally hanging Schneider out to dry, which is really obviously the best of both worlds. If you can cut down the odd man rushes against, then you're dictating the play offensively. I mean, that's kind of what you hope for as a fan. And for me, the way this team is built, we talked about it that they don't have to finish with a top 5 draft pick this year to have a successful season. If they finish whatever, 14, not 14th, but like 18th or 19th in the league, and they just miss out on the playoffs, that means they're doing things right, or that Hines is getting the most out of his players, which is what he said in the beginning of the season. Really, that was really his headline, playing a relentless style and maximizing the talent on the roster. And so far, his big money guys have been maximized. And I think that's huge because if you get your big money guys to maximize, I think that's a big key to already having a solid core in place. Because really, when you look at the Devils, I think before the season, everyone said, do they really have a core? All they have is Schneider. Okay, that's great. You've got Andy Green. You've got your one defenseman. And you've got Adam Larson, who looks like he's ready to be part of that core as well. But then really offensively, besides Mike Camilleri, who's 33, I'm not sure there is an offensive core. And now, 9-10 games into the season for several of these guys, Mike Camilleri in 10 games, 3 goals, 11 points. Travis Zajac, 10 games. Adam Henrique, 10 games, 6 goals, 9 points. And he's scored so many goals early on, he's actually chipped in assist-wise lately. Travis Zajac, 9 games, 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points. And then, Palmieri and Stempniak are right behind him. Their top 6 guys are scoring like top 6 guys. And that's huge for this team because that's what they've been really lacking the last few years is the lack of offensive goal scoring from their top 2 lines. How many games did we watch where it was Steve Bernier who carried the team for a night or Steven Gianta lucked his way into a goal or anyone else on those bottom 6 pairings? This team doesn't need to develop that many players offensively in the minors. Obviously, you'd like to, no question about it. But if Camilleri, Henrique, and Zajac are going to play, obviously not to this level. I mean, you would, with those numbers, each of those guys is now on pace for, high 70, high 80 points. But if they're playing even 75% of what they're playing at right now, they've got a pretty good top 6, and they'll be pretty close to ready to go. You bring up Pavel Zacha, maybe you have one more high draft pick in the top 15, something like that. This team's not that far off if these guys keep playing like they're playing. It's a lot to ask, but if they're playing anywhere near this for this season, they're already in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and one guy who I think hasn't really shown up on the score sheet yet, but I really like his game, and I think he'll continue to find his game, is Jiri Tlusty. I think that he's someone who certainly has a lot to prove because he's playing for a contract for next year. He started to fit in this top six, and though the goals haven't been there yet, and even the assists for that matter, he only has 3 points. I think he's someone who's going to start to come around. I mean, look, we've seen Kyle Palmieri kind of turn it up the last couple of days, which is nice. That's really what you want, which is something that I think the Devils have been so starved for scoring that you kind of forget that teams that actually score goals, other than the Patrick Kanes and the Tyler Sagans of the world, it ebbs and flows. You have guys who go on streaks and that kind of thing, and look, right now Camilleri 11 points in 10 games, he's hot. So is Adam Henrique. All of a sudden now Travis Zajac is getting hot with Palmieri. So I think that if you look at even Toulouse rounding out the top six, they have maybe not a great first line, but they have 2 pretty good number 2 quality lines that if either of them is dangerous at any given night, you're going to have to run your top pairing against one of them, and that puts them in an advantageous situation. To me, the biggest thing, though, is the depth scoring hasn't really been there yet, which I think you'd like to see, because then it makes them, I think, that much more difficult to defend, because if you can get a third line to get going, which I know Hines has tinkered with those lines a little bit. I don't know. I mean, Jeff, where would you go in terms of a third line? I know Reed Boucher is not even here right now. And what do you think? Because I know it's been 2-2 with Josephson, even Kalinin playing up with them. But what do you think they need to do? Because look, if they can get some secondary scoring, with a third line actually rolling out some goals, they could be pretty tough to defend.
Yeah, I think it's a welcome sight, really, that this year, in years past, it was really, what can they do? And gosh, Pete DeBoer 2 years ago, when it really started, that 13-14 year, when he had Jacob Josephson on the top line with, I believe it was, who was he playing with? Zajac and Yager. I mean, he put Jacob Josephson on the first line for the Winter Classic. I mean, if everyone remembers that. I mean, he was just having struggle finding ways to balance his top 2 lines or find ways to spread out his depth. Now it looks like they've got the top 2 lines figured out, and now they're going to try and figure out the third and fourth lines. I think that'll come. Really, if his top 2 lines are like this, it's a beautiful thing for John Hines. He doesn't have to touch it. With that, fans aren't going to get on him for, twirling around the third and fourth lines. He can try different combinations. I mean, he doesn't have to be as patient with the third and fourth lines as he was with the top 2 lines this year. And I think that's a welcome thing. I mean, if he wants to play around with that all year, that's fine with me. I still need to see more from some of these guys. And, I think that's the only disappointing part of this year is that Reed Boucher hasn't done enough to stay in the lineup. I think that's really the only disappointing thing you can say about this Devils team so far is that it looks like at some point he's going to be a bust.
Yeah.
Even though he is still he's still a kid. It's unbelievable. I mean, he's 22 years old. He's played in 3 games this year. It's just disappointing that he hasn't done enough to kind of even get minutes in the lineup. So I would say that's kind of the only.
Yeah, I want to play devil's advocate a little bit here. Look, I've been happy with what they've done. I really like what John Hines has brought to the table here, and they're certainly exceeding in my expectations. The one drawback of this, looking at the future, and I'm not talking about even next year, but 2, 3, 4 years down the road, I don't know, other than Palmieri and Henrique, and I guess Zajac, because he has quite a few years left, we haven't seen anything yet from this current group for the next few years. Look, it's been good for now, but I think to me, looking at Boucher and the fact that he can't make this roster, that to me is actually kind of a big disappointment. I'd almost rather say I'd rather Boucher have 4 or 5 goals right now and be playing and the Devils be 3 and 6 than where they are right now, just because I almost feel like this is great for now, but what have we seen for 3, 4, 5 years down the road yet? They haven't found that. I mean, sure, Pavel Zacha next year, probably, that kind of thing, but that's the one thing they need to address, and it's not quite there.
Yeah. I think that's what the fans would love to see is that this team stay interesting while it buys the Devils new front office time to get new players in. I know it wouldn't be good for a draft pick wise, but I think, this ownership especially would love to see the Devils make the playoffs this year. And then, that'll that'll buy them even more time to kind of fix this build. I don't know what the plan is. How much of a plan is being given here to Ray Shero, because you can't expect him to have this. In all reality, how many young quality players can he expect to have in the lineup over the next year, 2 years, 3 years? I mean, this is at least a 3-year rebuild, I think, in terms of getting this team up to rebuilding it, not just to be a playoff team, but to be in the middle to the upper part of the pack of the Eastern Conference. That's obviously the goal of Ray Shero. It's not just to rebuild this team into a team that contends for the wild card spots every year. To rebuild them to be, where the Devils, really had been, at the end of the 2000s, the early 2010s, put them, they want to be a 4-5 seed or better in the conference every year. So I'm interested to see, how long. That's the thing. People know the Devils are going to be bad, but now it's how long are they going to be bad? How long are they potentially going to be bad for? And I'm not sure how long that's going to be. How long will the fans stick with it? Like I said, we've seen attendance down. I'm sure some of the other numbers. You could probably bust out the TV numbers, and I'm sure they don't get. They're not a big TV draw to begin with, but are those numbers down? I'm not sure how much time they actually have to do this. I don't know. There's so much to analyze over the next 3 years. We've never been in this position before. It's almost weird to talk about it, but it's so far so good. And I guess that's the way we need to look at it. We were getting too far ahead of ourselves again, Dave. We need to stop and enjoy. Okay.
Soak it in day by day.
Yes. So with that, and I think that's the best part of this roster right now, is there's a guy. Everyone has something to prove on this roster. Besides Andy Green and Corey Schneider, you can make a case that everyone on this roster has something to prove, whether it's the guys they just brought in, a David Schlemko, Yuri Talusti, who they brought in on a short deal, Lee Stempniak, who's already performing well. Even guys they've given money to, Mike Camilleri, he's out to prove it again now with can he duplicate his goal scoring from last year? And he's getting paid a lot of money. Adam Larson, can he earn that contract as a 1A, 1B defenseman next to next to Andy Green? Pretty much everyone on this roster has something to prove. Adam Henry, proving he's worth that money. And I think that's the way that almost builds in perfectly to this hashtag relentless style they want to play. And I think so far, so well. I think everyone's risen to the occasion. I don't think, besides Boucher, I can't really think of anyone, having a disappointing start on this roster.
No, and that's a good thing, is that they have a team that I think maybe the team itself isn't hungry. Like if you look at, for example, the Kansas City Royals in baseball, where they just want to win a World Series because of what happened to them. But I think the Devils, you have maybe not collectively, but you have guys who are playing for something, whether it's Stempniak, who thinks he has a lot left in the tank and probably felt very slighted that he was a professional tryout, that no one wanted him on the roster. A guy like Yuri Talusti, who still believes, of course, that he could stick around, and he was the guy who was holding out just to get a contract this year. And then going down the line of the young defensemen, and even the guy like Sergei Kalinin, who the Devils took a chance on, who I'm sure would like to be in this league as opposed to going to Russia again. And I think that's a good thing, is that you have these guys who have something to play for every night. Maybe it's personal. That's okay. But you know what? You're personal together. It's a team game. And really, if this team is going to go somewhere, I think it's because they're not going to let up. They're not going to have these lulls where it's, it's too hard, or, we're giving up too much talent. But if they go out there and they compete every night, look, you're going to catch teams against their backup goalies. You're going to catch good teams against, in situations where they've been on the road or at the end of a back-to-back. So, maybe the schedule, as we'll talk about in a second, is going to get daunting over these next 10 games. But look, if they keep putting in the same sort of effort, and the hashtag relentless, I think we were kind of making fun of it for a while when it first came out. It doesn't look so bad now, to be honest.
No, they've lived up to every billing this year. I thought the New Heart Same Soul campaign was brilliant. Relentless has looked great so far, and even the fast attacking supportive has really, for the most part, been there. I mean, this team is definitely faster than teams in years past, which again wouldn't be hard. I mean, there were those teams. Really, the last 2 years were just so slow. I mean, that's why they really got dominated by teams like the Rangers, the Islanders, pretty much everyone they played. But just their speed alone this year has given them chances to win games. That's why they played so well in that game against the Rangers. So it's been comforting to see that. So yeah, if you woke up this morning, gosh, what a beautiful day it is. If you woke up this Friday morning, mischief night, October 30th, you popped on your smartphone, took a look around all the apps you normally do. If you popped on the NHL app and took a look in the standings columns and looked in the wild card section, the New Jersey Devils, the season ended today, and my God, the season does not end today, but it's fun to talk about for right now. They would actually be a playoff team, and there's squads behind them with games in hand and who are right behind them in points. But it's fun. It's exciting to at least see. Hey, right now, they're winning their handful of games, and they're right in position for the playoffs. But I think while it's fun to get excited about that, if you slide over from the standings part of the NHL app to the schedule part of the app for the Devils, my gosh, it gets freaking crazy tough. So I think hopefully fans don't get too ahead of themselves. I know I am this morning because it's fun, because why not? Because I don't know how many times we're going to get to say, hey, the Devils are a playoff team this year. So it's fun for me to say right now, but I know my expectations are going to be curtailed a little bit over the next week or so with the gauntlet of squads they'll have to run through, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, they do get a couple of them at home, but here's how it shapes up. We talk about the first 10 games. These are the next 10 games. They play 9 playoff teams. The only non-playoff team that they play is the Edmonton Oilers in their building with Connor McDavid. So that's a whole different story.
They've had weird games there.
They have had very weird games.
Yeah, the game they were up 3-0 and then lost 5-4 in a shootout. So that's a hashtag weird building to play in. So, again, that won't even be a gimme.
Okay, so obviously the next game's the Islanders at home. Then they play Islanders on the road after that. And, of course, Halak has been playing so well. The Islanders have been great. Then they get 3 games at home. Blackhawks, Canucks, Blues. Not an easy game in that entire bunch. Then it's home against the Blackhawks. So they get them twice in 4 games. Good luck. Then they play the Penguins at home. First time we'll see the Penguins this year, so that should be interesting. And then they close out the next 10 games with a 3-game road trip to Western Canada at the Flames, who are struggling but certainly can do well, at the Oilers, and at the Canucks, which, good. I mean, they get a lot of these Western Conference teams out of the way in the second month of the season, which is good. They won't have to go to Vancouver. I mean, they will have their California road trip coming up, which I think is actually later in the season than it's been in years past. But Jeff, what would be realistic, or what would be realistic, and what would you hope for out of those games? For me, I think if they can get 4 wins out of those games, that'd be a lot, to be quite honest, because there's not an easy game on that slate for the next 10 games.
Yeah, I was just gonna that would have been my number 2. If you get 4 wins, and even if you lose the other 6 straight up, you don't even get points out of it, I'm still okay with that. I would like to see, if they could get close to 10 points out of those 10 games, I think that would be a win in theory. But as far as expectations, I mean, if you catch a team in a bad time, there's no reason they can't, and they play. You have to remember the Devils are playing well too. So I mean, hopefully that factors into, they catch the Blackhawks on an off night, or maybe they catch the Blues on a bad night. So it's so funny because there's going to be some well-played games in there where they play well and they win their share of games. There's going to be some games. There's going to be probably a game where they play really well and they lose straight up. There'll probably be a game where they play really bad and they find a way to get 2 points out of it. So I would say coming right around 500 would be great. I think 4 wins would be par for the course. Anything above that is gravy. As long as they don't go like 2 wins or 3 wins and they don't get any overtime losses, I think that would kind of be That would kind of suck. But something like that, if you get 4 wins or you get 3 wins and maybe a handful of overtime losses, that'll be pretty. I think it'll be pretty decent.
But yeah, play past 60. I mean, I'm okay with that, especially because they've been so good in the 3-on-3, and they've been okay in the shootout this year. Keep it close and hedge your bets in overtime, perhaps. I mean, I don't know if I'd really want to be playing 3-on-3 against the Islanders or the Blackhawks, which is for the next 10 games, but you never know. I mean, look, Carolina beat the Islanders in a 3-on-3 last night. Ron Hainsey scored the goal. So look, maybe there's no rhyme or reason to it yet, as teams are trying to figure out what to do in the 3-on-3. But of course, the good thing about this is the team is going to take it game by game, unlike us, where we're sitting here speculating about the next 10 games as if it's one entity. But I think that's what they'll have to do, because it's going to be tough. Sure, they get 3 games in a row at home. Blackhawks, Canucks, and Blues are all playing really good hockey right now. And then even having there's no easy games, and they have there's some road games in there. I think we're going to find out a lot about this team, especially because look, I would think because they haven't really been had their doors blown off at any point. I would think within these next 10 games, there's a good chance, even if they go out and win 6 of these games, I think there's a good chance they're going to get their doors blown off at some point here. What's the response going to be like? Because we saw the response now to the Columbus game, where they had a game where they thought they probably were controlling and they lost, and they come out and they play really well in Philadelphia in a game that probably wasn't even as close as the scoreline said it was. I would like to see what their bounce back is going to be from one of these games, or even if they go out and lose to the Islanders at home, what their response is going to be going out to Brooklyn to play them.
Woo-hoo. Are you going to any games soon?
I will probably try to get to the game against the Canucks, because I'm actually going to be working right down the street in Newark at NJIT that day. So I'm going to try to get to that one, but the beginning of November is a little tough. But yeah, I'm hoping my next game I get to go to is against the Canucks, which is a 5:00 start. I don't know why they like to do these random start times. Make the weekend games day. I know that it's for TV ratings, but I'm just so against having to go at night, especially on a Sunday, to a night game. But I guess that's just what the schedule makers like to do.
Yeah, I like they used to do it a lot. The Devils, when they played at the Continental, they would play a lot. Maybe not a lot, but they played several more afternoon games on Saturday. I mean, they would consistently play probably, I would say, twice every 3 months. They would play a 1:00 game on Saturdays. There'd be 4 or 5 games a year where there would be a 1:00 start, which I think is great because everyone's off from work. They can get to the stadium early. I mean, obviously Newark you can't really. You can tailgate, but it's not like it was. But you could get there early, hang out, tailgate, and then go in. Yeah, I don't mind, and I even like the 5:00 start's okay. Even a 3:00 start would be fine. Yeah, 7:00. Everyone kind of wants to pack it in, especially now with the sun coming down a lot earlier.
Yeah. In February, they actually get 2 day games on the weekend. They play the Capitals at home on February 6th. That's a Saturday 1:00 game.
Yep.
And then on Valentine's Day, you get maybe if you can drag your boyfriend or girlfriend to a Devils game. I mean, power to you. They actually play a 12:30 game against the Kings. So
when's that? March, right?
Yeah. Which actually, that's actually a pretty good idea. If you're going to play a West Coast team, play them at 12:30 in the morning. So
well said.
Their body clock is coffee time.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point. Yeah, I'm hoping to get to a game soon. I don't know when. I could go if my schedule shakes out. I could actually potentially go tomorrow. I might go. I'm not sure. If not, I would like to see them play I've seen them play the Blackhawks several times the last few years, so maybe that Friday game against the Blackhawks might be a possibility. So, anything else you want to mention or chat about, Dave?
I do know that tomorrow, I believe it is, yes, for the Islanders game at Hotel Indigo, they're having the Hockey Unfiltered show back there again. Guys who we've been involved with, Sam Wu, who of course is loving the new chant that's been going around the stadium.
Now give me a little flavor. You've been to a few games this year. What's new? What's the atmosphere like inside the stadium with the fan engagement?
I think people are still a little lukewarm about the goal song, and I think that's going to happen for forever. Look, my feeling is enough with the "you suck" or trying to do it, and it's like oh the Turker Gerbs, that thing, the stupid South Park thing, and people are so ornery about the idea that they can't say "you suck" and that we're going to do it anyway, and we're going to fight the power. I mean, let's just root for the team instead. The goal song, sure. Gary Glitter, whatever you want to say about Rock and Roll Part 2, it's gone. It's not coming back. So, at some point you got to cut your losses and realize, let's just be happy when this team scores goals.
Yes. How I feel about this. The people who think that the "you suck" is tradition, it's not tradition. It's been happening for 7 years. That's not a tradition by any stretch of the imagination. So I always find that comical that we're more concerned about screaming at the other team instead of just beating as loud as possible. But whatever, it'll probably never change. Maybe it began organically. Maybe it'll go away organically. It probably won't be. It probably, at this point, it probably won't because of the way it was taken away, so to speak. So we'll have to see about that. But yeah, I hear the Ric Flair wooing every once in a while. Is that anything? Do they just do that randomly, or is it after a goal?
That's getting bigger and bigger, actually. I know, again, Sam Woo,
yes,
with his name, that works perfectly. He's been a big fan of that, and it's starting to grow. I've tweeted earlier in the week, where your team Woo or team you suck. I guess there's some people who were both. It's
have they done the wooing to try and drown out the "you suck" or no?
I don't know if it's as much that as it's just kind of in there, but I think you have people who want to do both. I think that's part of the thing, is that you have people who just want to make noise. But again, I'll stick with it. There's too many lulls during the play where there's just no one cheering and you can hear a pin drop. If someone burps in section 5 and you're across the arena, you're going to hear them. So I would hope that the fans will get back into it and really start to just support this team in general. Look, if you want to say you suck, just do it, okay? Whatever. If you want to woo, I'm for that. I guess I have had to pick a side. Let's just enjoy the games. Stop with the whole we have to say you suck. It's really getting old, and I'm sick of talking about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on that. Well, that was fun. So we'll try and get another one of these together in short order. I hope you anyone who was out there enjoyed my Jim Brewer style recap in honor of the Mets and the fun they've had out there. It's tough to yell and scream in an apartment building, as I told one of our buddies, Andrew. So I kind of had to do it in the style of a WWF, WWE heel, which is also fun. So we'll try and do more of that. We'll only do them after wins. I'm not going to do them after losses. It's more fun to do it after a win where I can potentially freak out and lose my mind a little bit. So I'm not going to do them after a loss. So.
Well, hopefully we'll have another one coming out tomorrow night. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, it would have to be tomorrow night too, because I actually won't be around potentially during the day, so it'll have to be at night. But we'll do it. We'll find a way to get it into your regular diet of your social media life. So for Dave Turner, I'm Jeff O'Connor. It's been the Devils Insiders Podcast. We'll talk to you soon, and let's go Devils.